Hello and welcome to episode 324 of the Awesome Comics Podcast, the place where the small press makes one hell of a big noise. I'm Vince Hunt, creator of Murder Road, and joining me as always is the creator of the webcomic Vanguard, Dan Butcher.
Hello.
And the third amigo, Tony Esmond. He can't be with us at the moment, but you will hear his voice a little bit later. He's feeling a bit under the weather, so...
he did step in and do his interviewer duties.
Yes, he did. He did. We don't let him off. He's still got a clock in and clock out. We run a tight ship here. No, we don't.
No.
It's leaking, and we're probably going to perish like the Titanic. But no, we're also joined by our good friend Gary Watson from Comics Anonymous for our topic this week, which is very interesting. It was good to catch up with Gary about all things like comics websites and journalism and reviews and such, which we feel is important. I mean, myself and Dan were talking just before we started. Gary and Tony are like proper good reviewers.
Proper reviewers.
Myself and Dan
Me
don't
and you are
consider
fucking
ourselves...
chances.
Yeah, we're fucking chances. Yeah, we don't consider ourselves to be reviewers. We're more sort of like, oh, I read this. This is cool. You should read it.
Yeah, there's times like where we've had guests on, and I've done like the appropriate level of research and reread the book several times and looked into it. That I can't do all the time with every comic. I just don't have the.
Yeah.
But I can read it for him. Like, I really like this. This is great. That's great.
Also, it's just got to be fun to do, hasn't it? You know, when your hobbies and your passions become a chore, they stop being your hobbies and your passions, don't they? Really? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, you're right. Totally right.
Yeah. But you know what's never a chore? Checking out our lovely sponsor, Dan. Who are they again?
Comic House.
Yes, Comic House. We love them. We talk about them every week because they're our sponsor. But no, seriously, though, you should check them out. They're an indie
contractual obligation.
The contractual obligation to read this badly every week. That's the creative brief that we've been given.
It's not a heavy cross to bear, to be fair.
No. But I mean, they're bearing the heavy cross of supporting lots of great indie comics, which they do with aplomb. If you go to comichouse.com, you can see there's a huge selection of titles on the database. If you self-publish, you can also list your work on there and start selling straight away. But they also have a fantastic digital app, which has all of those comics and more. It's basically like Netflix for comics. Subscription service for only £3 a month, which is nothing really. I mean, new comics are rarely under that, I find, especially digitally.
God, no, yeah.
Yeah. And for just that, every month you get access to not just one comic, but an enormous library of digital indie comics that's being added to all the time. What stuff have we got on there that's been added at the moment, Dan?
We've got the Saint Volume 1. We've got Ghostwriter, which I gave a review shout out to last week, and that was excellent. We've got Bloop and the Pigeon Pandemic 3, The Last Arrival issue 3, and we've got the Spark on there as well, issue 3, which I drew Iron Eagle in. I've got a couple of the actual physical copies. I was thumbing through that. I would like to carry on working on Iron Eagle, but that's for the future.
Yeah, the world needs more of that. Yes, so there's all of that and more. I mean, Dan's got lots of work on there. I've got some work on there. Tony's got some work on there. Lots of past guests and probably future guests have got work on there. And you never know, where you might find your next favourite book. So go to comichouse.com. You can, to find out more, start a 14-day free trial and to dive headfirst into the amazing world of small press and indie books that we talk about every week. Yeah, just go check them out.
Go have a look. Yeah.
It's all right, isn't it?
Do it.
It's not bad. Do it. No,
Bringing it back from last week's conversation, I have not looked any further into that Amazon thing about
the comicsology stuff. Yes, that's going to be interesting because that's this coming week, isn't it?
Yeah, I've kind of not looked about the change, how to change the PDFs into the required format or anything. I think I guess we're a lot more reactive on this one as opposed to proactive, which is not great.
What I do is I go to comicsology.com to look at, certainly that one of the books I'm going to talk about later, to actually do my sort of shopping. I'm very interested to see if one day that will just change. The look of that will change, or will it just suddenly link me to something else?
Well, they have done I think someone did they did mock-ups or people had a kind of look at what the new site are going to be and we're going to look like. Because what I'd hate for it to be is look like Amazon.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you? Like,
yeah. It's just got to be. Yeah. I know it's plugging into the Kindle store. Joining the Kindle store and stuff, but it's comics, man. We'll have a bit of character, hasn't it? There's got to be a bit of style, a bit of flavour. Flavour.
I agree. I've kind of, I know what you mean. Like you want a bit of panache to it. It's not just like a. Well, we have to see. I'm not going to talk it into it, but we. I guess we might. If you get in our Slack group, hopefully you'll be on the forefront of that.
Yes. Yes, and there's oh no, we're not at that point of the show where I'm doing all the links yet. But we are at the point of the show where we're going to give you a nice chunky bit of comics talk to start your week off right. As we said from the we're revisiting the world of comics journalism, and as Comics Anonymous celebrated its mighty 10-year anniversary recently, which is amazing. Which I think you and I can agree, Dan. It's like.
God, when it's just
we're currently. I think we're both just having the realization that if we managed to do that on this show, we might have killed each other by then, or had our brains might have melted. But Gary,
it's scary. The years fucking ticking by.
Yeah,
generally.
Yeah, but Gary's absolutely smashing it in terms of fantastic comics content. So this is a chat that is very interesting with one of the shining lights of the indie comic press journalism. So, check it out. Right, it's time for this week's highbrow topic, isn't it, Dan?
Oh, yeah.
As you can tell, Dan Butcher's properly prepared for it. We're never prepared for anything on the show, which is what makes it so interesting. Tony's here with us.
I'm back.
Hey, he's here to bring some occasionally highbrow thoughts and comments.
Do you know another Tony? Because okay. So I've been a bit poorly, so I'm not doing the whole episode. So apologies, but I'll be all right for next week.
Yes, he will be back. So before the show, I was cutting off so many jokes, and I'm just not going to. But Tony's here, and he did not come alone.
No.
Because we are joined by an old friend of the show, known for Comics Anonymous, one of the best comic books.
Yeah.
Shows and not shows, podcasts. You should have a podcast, Gary. I don't know why you don't.
Yeah, you should. Yeah.
Well, everyone does these days. But yes, Comics Anonymous, which is one of our favourite websites for comics, and it's been going for 10 years now. Yes, we're joined by Gary Watson. Hello, sir.
Hey, guys. Hello. How are you?
Hey, Gaz. Good. Congratulations on the 10 years.
Yeah, congratulations.
Thanks, guys.
That's awesome.
One of the only websites I trust, I'd like to say.
Yes.
Thanks very much.
And I think that's quite an important point to start on, because obviously, Gary, you were on our show probably about a couple of years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously we were talking a little bit about comics journalism and like the industry as it was then, and certainly things have changed a lot in those 2 years. And certainly anyone that's listening to this show will hear us grumble about things or be happy about the ups and downs of the comics industry and what's going on in indie comics as well. But since you started like a decade, that blew my mind, by the way. With the decade,
mine too.
That's just blasted by, isn't it?
Yeah,
it really has. Yeah.
What has it been like for you? I mean, I'm going to ask you to go back in your time machine and remember why on earth you started a website 10 years ago. But let's start at the beginning. What inspired you to make a website about comics and to talk about them?
I think it was pretty much the same, probably along the same lines as yourselves. You're talking about comics so much, you just feel like there's something more you can contribute and do with that. And back, it was just I'm on a group of friends that really just spoke about comics so much, and then it just so happened around about the time DC were doing their launch for New 52.
Yeah,
so that was the kind of trigger for us talking more on that coming up, and it just came into the conversation that we should start some sort of reviewing site to talk about it among a wider group, and maybe just reach out to some of these companies and maybe even just get the chance to speak to some of the creators, maybe probably more so than we had ever done before. As a group, we never went to conventions very much. we just, much like everybody else that reads comics, we just do it for like the personal enjoyment and mostly on our own sort of stuff. And then the New 52 was the catalyst for us doing stuff, and then from there it triggered involvement in conventions, and from there we really got to see the indie scene, which I probably had never seen before, certainly not to the extent that I do now. And we just went with it, and it really quickly, it grew legs really quickly. A lot of people were then getting in touch with us, and the comic chat just grew from being a kind of secluded group to being more of an audience type thing. And we just felt like it was something additional. There was something different that we could say that maybe other sites couldn't say at that time. Maybe that was our naivety. I don't quite know, but we always felt like comics and the comics interest that we had was different from everybody else's. In those 10 years, you probably then realise that you're far more connected with the people that are into comics than you knew before, and maybe it wasn't necessarily the solitary pursuit that it was maybe viewed upon.
Interesting. No, excuse me for saying this, but I always thought Comics Anonymous was just you guys. Is there a team? Is there or?
No, when it first started, there was a group of about 5 of us who did reviews. We kind of divvied up the New 52 titles, and we all had our own interests and our own routes to go with whatever we wanted to say. But that group kind of sustained the site initially for about a year. And then round about the year mark, the kind of group dynamic changed, I suppose you could say. And other interests kind of overshadowed comics a little bit. And then there was about 6 months, maybe even a little bit more, where it was kind of trapped in limbo because the group wasn't working the same way it had. But and me, I think because we had seen such maybe a different side to comics, that it felt like something that I wanted to run with. So
that's the nature of group dynamics, though, sometimes.
Of course, definitely, But it kind of sparked from there. And
New 52 really was I think it will be talked about more than a lot of other events, more than Rebirth, for example. I think it really was a big moment, wasn't it? It was a real chance. And there was some good and there was some bad that came out of that, totally. But there was some great stuff that came out of it, you know.
Yeah, there were some great teams that were put together. That again, fresh teams that maybe would never have been put together otherwise. I mean, we probably not, to some extent we haven't seen that kind of glimpses of magic come from maybe other events. Other events have kind of come and gone.
I think
and they haven't been
was
something
better as well, wasn't it?
This
was kind of before. I can't believe it was that long ago, but you know, obviously across media, it was news. It was big news. Everyone was talking about. But now I think with modern stuff, there's so many events, so many mini events, so many reboots. You're getting all these news all the time, but nothing's as special as the big things don't seem as big anymore.
And I think we had a lot of talent who since has crept off to Image and stuff as well.
For sure.
I think there was a lot of even people, some maybe Kelly Sue DeConnick or something like that. There's creators who we don't see anymore. Keith Giffen, for example, we don't see enough of him at the moment. And I would love to have been in the team meeting where they were putting together the plan of who's on what and why.
Yeah, definitely. Or who was desperate to do a particular title, to see what kind of reasons they had for
doing what they wanted to do.
Yeah,
definitely.
And it was probably responsible for a lot of people getting into comics. I mean, people, when it comes to a lot of these big events, and certainly everyone has been down on a big event at some point. But a big event can also be a catalyst. Will be someone's. Oh, I got into comics around the time of.
And I've heard that mentioned. I know the local comic shop here did like a midnight opening, so you could go in and buy.
That's a big deal.
The titles. Yeah. I bought everything. I bought the first issue of everything.
Well, you do that anyway every week, Tony.
Same.
I just went the Hawkman. Was it Savage Hawkman? There's some really interesting stuff going on with it, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Side subject.
So you started with the DC, but then obviously as you started looking into it, this whole world of comics just opens up in front of you, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
So, and that was from conventions, was it, Gaz? Because I know are you Glasgow based, aren't you?
Yeah, just outside
so you weren't
Glasgow.
seeing the small press scene at the time because you, like you say, you weren't at the conventions at the time, or?
No, I don't even think like conventions was something that we were really thinking about very much at that point.
Yeah,
it wasn't, and it was the same that one of the first kind of thought bubbles we went to. We were travelling down to Halifax to do an interview with Kieran Gillen and Dougie Braithwaite, and I think before we got there, it was only then that we discovered that thought bubble existed, and we kind of bolted that on. But once we got there, you're left thinking, why the fuck are we just bolting this on? This is like a major thing. And I think maybe at some of the other conventions, Glasgow was quite good at that point because they had a lot of indie guys coming in it. And some of the other events, they tended to just be mainstream guys so that they could kind of bank on getting the fans in.
I think it's important still, man.
Definitely.
I think like you guys, I think like you, and I had a revelatory period around the small press, or again, really around the same time as you. And I think it's because a lot of guys are just, your Wednesday warriors. They're buying what's on the shelf, and not even necessarily aware of. I was chatting to Sarah about this the other day, and she was talking about the Frank Miller thought bubble thing, and she said nobody in a comic shop had heard about it. Because they're just there. They go in, they buy their comics, and they go home. They're not necessarily active on social media. And I think even the conventions are occasionally a little bit. I mean, there was Bridlington Comic Con this weekend. I only knew about that on Thursday because I saw Gareth tweet about it.
Bloody hell.
Yeah. And I think that people they just want to go and buy their comics. So it's not necessarily something that we got exposure to. And I suppose that's part of the breaking out the bubble thing that we need more of,
Yeah, I think so. Certainly now, after the past couple of years and the way things have been, we're in dire need of being able to break out of that.
Yeah,
definitely. Yeah,
I think it was maybe in last week's show or the week before. You were talking about some of the cliques that exist within this bottle press. That I think the seclusion over the last couple of years has maybe started that kind of drifting back in, and because we don't have the room where people are just flung in together who all create comics and then they just gel together because they're all heading in the same direction in terms of a comic book journey sort of thing. We kind of lost that a little bit.
Yeah, I agree, man. Totally. That caused quite a lot of discussion. I know on the Slack someone just mentioned it actually.
Okay.
I think Joe Simons just mentioned it on the Facebook page. He rather nicely said, "You're not part of a clique. You may be a clique, but you're inclusive,ch I think is the important thing for us. Yeah, we're quite concerned about that. We don't want to be that, do we, guys?
No, God no. As long as you're making comics or reading or want to be a part of them, you're welcome. I don't want.
For sure.
Yeah. Definitely, we don't want that sort of elitism because that's only bloody the one way to get less and less people interested in comics.
I mean, the reason that any of all of this exists is because we were looking for fresh voices. We were looking for new people. We're looking for people that love comics and to share the positivity of comics. I just want everyone to be happy.
I think you're right, though, guys. I think that I think slightly before COVID we began to see more of a formation of cliques, but it's certainly been pushed more and more during the lockdown. And I definitely think we're actually predicting Comic Con guests by certain cliques these days. I think the curation of some comic conventions is pushing cliques, which I think is a shame.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah,
there should be more 2000 AD people at certain conventions. There should be more Marvel and DC people at comic conventions, and they're just not being invited. Because people are that enclosed in their little bubble, looking at this is really good.
It's odd because surely the UK scene got so many great artists.
Yeah,
I don't know why you kind of.
Why they're not commando artists at these events? There's lots of. I always got to walk around and think, where's DC Thompson? Where's the 2000 AD store? Where's the Marvel? Panini store.
Yeah, I mean, we do get Commando and stuff. Maybe a little bit more up here because there's a direct connection to Dundee and stuff. So we do see it likes of Dunfermline. But as you say, there's a lot of British comic institutions that don't appear at British comic events, which doesn't necessarily make a hell of a lot of sense.
Agreed. Totally, man. Yeah.
Yeah.
I noticed there's a swap meet, a commando swap meet down near me soon. Yeah, that should be quite interesting. Yeah, I'll go to that.
That's interesting because, like, Commando, I used to read them as a kid, but they've kind of totally passed me by in that regard. I don't think ill of them at all, but it's just kind of like I don't know. It's
a weird one, isn't it? And then now we've got stuff like Shift and Comic Scene, and it should be an open forum, shouldn't it?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And a lot of these, a lot of people are obviously trying to find that balance of crossing the mainstream with the indie, which is a very difficult balance. Difficult balance, I think. It's why it's easier to focus on one thing and then just go for it.
Yeah.
I mean, how have you found on Comics Anonymous, Gary? Like your tastes and what you write about and enjoy writing about. How have they changed over the years?
I think once you start stepping out of like the superhero kind of shadow from the likes of Marvel and DC, then after that it's anything goes in terms of what kind of story you will read, or maybe even what kind of story you will take a chance on. I suppose it's dangerous because people are always going to like whatever they like, and the danger is that people then gatekeep those for whatever reason they want to. That's dangerous because it then doesn't allow a character to evolve in a different direction or stuff like that. So that can be kind of a damaging aspect, if you like, of how characters are viewed. But in terms of the indie scene just, I think because there's no, for the vast majority of the time, there's no publishers holding people back. They're just going, what's the story I want to tell, and how the hell I want to tell it, and they just do it. So there's no decision maker somewhere pushing them back or forcing them to do it, and there's no time constraints that maybe force people's hands. So they ease into a story that then kind of develops naturally.
Without having to worry about the next crossover event or
exactly
whether the sales are dropping or
a whole kind of history of a particular character. They don't have the weight of that kind of bearing down on them, and
I know you're
forced in a particular direction.
You're not a super backer on Kickstarter. You're a massive super backer, as I understand. Gaz, what are you talking now? Is it got to be on the way to 300 somewhere in it?
I'm 3 or 4 short of 400.
Fuck.
Jesus bloody hell.
So I think that's like a super duper backer or something like that.
I think you're right. Is that how you find a lot of books that you will review onwards and stuff like that?
I do get a lot of, maybe in the last couple of years, for definite, it stepped up from what I would take the chance on backing. With changes to postage and stuff like that, and some campaigns charging astronomical amounts for digitals and stuff like that. There's a lot, maybe US based or maybe even just outside the UK, that I just refuse to back because of the cost.
Plus, if they're going to be in Diamond, why am I backing it and paying 30 quid?
But with these sort of things,
it's a good source.
Do you find yourself, like, if you review these books, are you more comfortable reviewing a book that you've bought or one that's been sent to you?
I'm more. Sorry, can I just jump in? I'd rather buy a book. I'd rather buy a book these days. Yeah. I don't get sent any anymore after I was quite critical of a lot of books. So I buy them now.
The problem, isn't it? Because we change, the landscape changes from being like you review it for critical feedback or an honest opinion to the point where I only want to hear good things about.
Yeah, it's not. I'm not here to promote your book for you, mate.
I need some review quotes for the campaign.
Yeah, that's not what my job is.
That's a danger from the comic book side, is that they're pushing for a 5 out of 5 review, and some sites do that. They constantly give everything a 5 out of 5 review. And
I know.
That can't be. It just can't.
Yeah. Are they saying that every single comic they get is perfect? I had a conversation with someone who said a certain website only reviews books they like. I said, it doesn't matter whether you like them or not, mate. Mm-hmm. Are they perfect? Because you never seem to say a bad thing about them.
Yep.
It's incredible.
Yeah, I suppose
the thing is, a lot of times when it comes to the comics, you really need to take a step back and just accept that the comic may well not every comic is written for Gary Watson. You know what I mean? There's comics out there that will never be comics that I will enjoy, or maybe even comics I would track down and get my hands on. But if I can get through it, then that's a start.
I know what you mean. That is the start.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. But I think as well, Gaz, I think from what you're saying there, mate, if you don't mind me saying, is it shouldn't matter whether it's our type of book. It shouldn't matter.
No, not at all.
It should, and I know what you're saying about getting through it, and that is fucking the first thing in it. Sometimes I just can't get through it, so I can't review it. Yeah. But I think if it shouldn't matter, there's almost a degree of me that thinks it shouldn't matter whether you like it. You should matter about, is it good, is it bad, what's good and what.
Of course, yeah. Because I think even in the comics that you would never get and buy, the writing, the art, the lettering, the colouring, there's tangible goodness in every aspect of that. Which
is empirical and subjective.
Totally, I think, totally separate from whether you enjoy the book.
And how successful a book is. Like, there's, I mean, Dogman is probably it's Dogman, which is the most popular book on the planet.
So, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people. I mean, I would probably read it and just think, this isn't for me, but this is fun. Do you know what I mean? But the people it's there
it's good for this reason, it's bad for this reason. Yeah.
But the people it's there for have made it the biggest thing since bread was invented.
Exactly.
But I mean, X Factor's popular, but it's still shit. You know what I mean?
Oh dear.
But I think they come to us because we show some. I mean, you got 10 years on your belt, man. That's great.
Yeah.
You got all that experience. You're a trusted reviewer. People come to you. They should be coming to you to say, what have I done right and what have I done wrong?
Yep, totally.
Yeah.
And if you're not giving them an honest feedback, you're not in the right place.
Yeah.
The only trouble is if you become one of those things that everything's great. If everything's great, nothing's great.
Yeah.
Because I can't trust anything you say.
You need shite so that you can know what's good. You need something to contrast against. It's as simple as that.
It's like that bloke in the Far Show who used to walk about going brilliant all the time. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like that bloke suddenly.
Because there's take it away from a little bit. There's a guy I watch for video game reviews, and he's kind of just like a bloke that plays it for a day or so, and it's like he gives you your honest opinion. He says, this is really good, this is really crap of it, and this is what I think overall. And it's not like some polished effort, but I know that I can watch that and I could get an honest opinion of it, and it's not going to be guff, or he's not regurgitating what someone's typed for him to say about the video.
I suppose the other side of that, Dan, is that people who just trash books, it doesn't seem to happen in written media anymore. It's more sort of YouTube from what I see. People just go for it, don't they?
Or buy books and burn them or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
People like seeing someone getting dunked on and someone getting owned, as it were, in inverted commas. So they'll buy something that they know they don't like just so they can read it and say, "Oh, hey, this is really shit." And
I suppose that goes back. That goes back to what I was saying earlier on, where you really need to take a step back and accept that the book may not be for you. You know, it may not be written for with you in mind. So, I don't understand. I don't understand the thought process that then leads to people like threatening creators or stuff like that, because it doesn't go with what they have in their heads.
Have you ever gone back for a second pass, Gary? Have you ever read a book and just been thought, I don't get it, or it's not for me, but it's been niggling at you, and you've gone back for another read and suddenly you found something else from it?
There's probably two or three.
You burn it. This is trash.
I take a shit on it. There is probably things that I've maybe a first issue. There isn't enough there to make you absolutely love it and scramble for the next issue. Sometimes there's certainly titles out there where I wouldn't read, and then what I would do is I would maybe go back once a trade was out, and then a trade's out. It's more of a rounded story, so you've got a little bit of a flow. It's the same sometimes when it's broken down into sequential issues.
Especially with the decompression.
Some don't work. Some don't work as a a monthly title. Some work as a collected book, and vice versa. You know, it's it can really depend across who's writing it, the way it's written, and how it's constructed.
Some things are just total setup in the first issue, and the dynamic of the book doesn't come through until you hit the second and the third. Because it's setting up all these characters to meet. That's not what I'm interested in. I'm interested in how these characters interact, which is sometimes doesn't happen for a couple of issues. So the sort of true heart of a book almost doesn't happen for a while.
Yeah. And then it's the same. Some stories are stretched out over too many issues. You know what I mean? You can get, there's a 12-issue series, and you could have told the most interesting parts of that story in 4 or 6 or whatever.
Yeah.
And that would have been enough.
Batman. Sorry. Yeah.
I made the observation: is there any film nowadays that couldn't do with having 15-20 minutes shaved off of it?
Yeah.
Dan loves a 79-minute movie, don't you, Dan?
Yeah. If you look at the back, and it's usually films in the 80s and 90s, like 90 minutes long. You're like, yes.
Yeah, 90 minutes.
Okay, for sure. Yeah. I mean, they did that with the Netflix shows. They dragged out a story over the 10 or 13 issues.
The Marvel ones were like that, weren't they?
Yeah.
And everyone seemed to throw in a flashback episode in the middle of it. And you're like, I've got to get through this now. I know all this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I remember when it used to be like the shorter seasons were like, the quality is consistent because you don't have the space.
You don't have filler.
You don't have filler. So now, if you're watching a series that's like 8 episodes and there's 2 duff ones, what a waste of fucking time.
Yeah. It's like that first season of The Walking Dead, which is like 6 episodes long, 6 or 8.
Yeah.
And so much happens in that, doesn't it?
Dynamite. Yeah. Yes. Absolutely amazing. But then they said, you're spending too much money. You need this to be double the length, and it was double the length and more boring.
Well, that was reflected of the series, the comic series, sadly, wasn't it? Loads happens in the first trade, and then we're in the prison for another 3 months. It's like that.
It's a bit cool. But like we did the Terminator RoboCop.
Oh yeah, that was fun. Yeah,
and that fucking comic just puts the foot down from page 1 and doesn't stop until the end. There's no kind of scenes like pulled out to see how it plays out. It's just action, and that's one thing you can kind of do in comics that you couldn't in film and TV. You'd be being accused of being schizophrenic or
just non-stop
ADHD.
With independent comics and certainly small press, I think you have to have that mentality.
Of what, catching the reader's attention, you mean? Sort of thing.
You haven't, especially if you're a small press and you haven't got a publisher behind you and stuff, you haven't got the wiggle room to waste pages on stuff. You've got to grab people so that they're in the book. Or get the atmosphere of a book, or love a character. We're not saying it has to be action, but people have to know what your book is within the first 10 pages, without doubt.
Yeah, agreed. I think you need a naked lady doing an overhead bicycle kick as well.
Oh yes,
which is one of my favourite. Yeah,
that always.
But you're right. You need kind of like that high concept that gets them in, and then you set up the issue 2 and like a massive cliffhanger, or the reader's so invested by the end of issue 1 that they're like, oh man, I want to see where this goes.
Yeah. I started that book and didn't stop, Dan. That book rattles on.
Yeah,
it's just fuck it now. Master.
I got to the end of it and I was like, oh, that's the end. I was just
that's what you want to feel like, isn't it?
I was mentioning the comic. I don't know if you get this, Gary, if you get stuff sent into review, and I've read this happened several times to me, and like you read a comic through and it's like, I don't know what this comic is trying to say to me. I just get absolutely nothing from it. I've read it and just nothing. It seemed like, you read a textbook in school and like absolutely nothing goes in, or you read a page of a fiction novel when you're half asleep and I don't even remember reading what the fuck that was. How do you go about tackling that?
I think whenever a book comes in, my first read through is usually a read through as a fan, as a comic fan, and then trying to see if there's enough there to make me want to see the next issue. After that, I tend to do maybe 3 or 4 rereads so that I can get how everything's connected and where it possibly could go. There are some that you go through and you would never touch again, and there's some that you can't review. There is some that exist where there's no way you could say something.
I'm going to nick
something
this
valuable,
Yeah, I'm going to nick this phrase off Dave Kennedy, where he was reading a comic and just turns to the camera to his left just to do a what the fuck, before he looks back to reading it. Yeah, there's some that I've gone, what the fuck does this even? What are they doing? Yeah.
I mean, do you find, like, on the whole, like, when you're doing your reviews, or you're picking out your highlights, you're picking out the ones that you want to shine a light on, or are you, have you ever hesitated?
No, I don't think so. There's books that I would probably never go back to that I've done reviews for, and as I said earlier on, that there are still there's valuable elements to probably most books that you get sent through. Maybe I would maybe just do a first issue review if it wasn't something that was going to grab me and get me going.
That's an interesting point there, Gaz. It's okay. Sometimes you get sent the first issue and you do a review of it, and you get sent the second issue. And you think, I don't know if I've got much more to say about this.
Yeah.
That's a problem I face, which is why we do a lot of first issue reviews on here.
Yeah, for sure.
Because it's a nice new thing, isn't it? Something to talk about.
Yeah, definitely.
Same character, same artist, same writer. It's difficult to find more to talk about, I think,
And I know there's certainly been times when I'm like, oh, I'm going to follow this series. This is really grabbing.
And we don't necessarily talk about them, but we are reading them. Yeah.
But also, there's some series. I mean, I'm going to talk about one later that I'm going back to. I'm talking about the following issue and stuff. But there's some that, now that I think about it, I haven't gone back. Was there a reason?
Okay.
Was there a reason?
Yeah.
I don't know, for no negative reason. But like sometimes you're watching a TV show, you get halfway through it, and then you fall out of it, and you've never gone back to finish it.
Yeah.
I think as well as if you're having to review issue 287 of Savage Dragon, for example, if I was going to do that, I would probably set aside a bit of time to work out who was who and what was what, so I could explain it as part of the recommend.
Yeah.
But if you're doing first just a single graphic novel or a single first issue or something like that, there's not quite as much backstory that you have to research. It makes it slightly easier on us. Slightly less of an information download to a reader. I think,
for sure.
A side note: Eric Larson posted that double page spread. Is that in the latest issue? That one? I was
that's an old one.
Oh, okay. I was kind of taken aback by that, I've got to say.
Yeah, there's a lot of that in there, man, now. Yeah.
Sexy
He's moved
times.
on to that area. Yeah.
It's basically like, listen, if I can try to paint a picture for you, there's like kind of some cosmic battlefield with all these dead bodies, and there's this little red man having sex with a woman on the corpse of a massive monster.
It's not just that, but there's a sound effect going down vertically, just going bam, 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 bam.
He's sort of bringing it. He's quite obviously bringing her to orgasm from the way of the voice.
All right, I know.
She's going. And there's all these comments
down. Make.
Is that an atomic jerky, is it?
Thank you, guys. You're my favourite guest.
I do like that Frank Cho pasted a picture of his Spider-Gwen, isn't it? Going outrage or something.
I'm very tempted to steal that.
Yeah.
Savage Dragon changed a lot over the years, hasn't it? And I think Larson's doesn't give a shit.
I think he goes with how he feels about stuff. It's such a good read, man. I haven't done my 6 monthly recommend on it recently, have I? I
should get into it again, man.
Mate, jump on it. I know you
I used to be a big Savage Dragon reader, and then I went through the uni years of like, I've got to cut everything back, and I just never really picked it back up.
Fucking masterclass, man. So good. Yeah.
He did put a gallery up of all of his DPSs, which some of them are just fucking amazing.
Yeah.
Double penetrations.
Do you have like a criteria you use, Gary, when you kind of like go to review a comic, or a process you go through?
Do you do a point system still, do you guys? I can't remember. I
do. I tend to do out of 10. I think that all the pieces have got to fit together nicely to be kind of higher scores, I would guess. There's a few books out there that I've probably given a 10 out of 10, but maybe as a comic, it's maybe not a 10 out of 10 comic, but it gives me something beyond that. Maybe it resonates with me. Maybe it triggers a bigger discussion, or I suppose now mental health is a big thing. So there's a lot of books out there that go beyond being a comic and go into.
Do you think that the emotional? You know what I mean? Do you feel like the emotional response is important as a reviewer?
I think because I'm always trying to split my reading and looking at comics as between a fan and between a reviewer, I think it always kind of drifts in to some extent.
Of course it has to. I think. Yeah.
I think the
enthusiasm
story,
is energy, isn't it?
The story has got to trigger something in you, and if that's not coming from an emotional thing, I don't know where else that kind of trigger would come from.
Yeah.
So
I think we've got to be. I think we've got to be enthusiastic about the right things, man. I think there's a certain energy to reading a comic. There's a certain energy to reviewing it, and you've been. I don't know if I feel this way sometimes. Like I get into reviewing a comic, and I find that as I'm writing, things occur to me, and that's what they meant. It's sort of
yeah. I think most of the time you're just looking to be honest about the aspects that are good and the aspects that are bad. Not necessarily out of being nasty or anything like that, but being out of that's how it looks when I read it several times as a reviewer. That's how it looks when I've read it once as a fan. If it has the same things pop out on each of those occasions, then that's your criteria. Your criteria is this works and this doesn't, and you can then form your opinions around that. You don't have to go all guns blazing for someone, and you don't have to kiss somebody's arse either way, to be perfectly honest. And I don't think I've always kind of shied away from doing that because it's not something that I need to do. And I suppose maybe more so because Comics On as a one-man show, I've got complete control over what's being said. So
have you ever had a bad reaction from a review?
I don't think so. I think that there's way back at the beginning there was inevitably times where you're still finding your way on how to construct a review, and sometimes you drift into just retelling the story, which isn't any good. You've got to give a flavour of the story and not any of the detail. And then after that, you can shine a light on what's really good and shine a light on what's really bad. So maybe back at the beginning, there was certainly more of a pushback on what I was saying. People maybe not angry, but confused why the score was the way it was. But you, especially now, my reviews in themselves tend to outline exactly why it gets that score that it's got. So I don't think there's any question mark. I think if I was,
you're making it clear. I
was a bit more. I've definitely over the years I've become a little bit more clear, and I think my language has kind of evolved a lot more.
That's an interesting thing. I'm forever googling what is another word for. I'm sort of trying to explore language and stuff.
Because you can say certain things and you get into a kind of lazy kind of way of talking, and I think when I do like the comic a day in May, where I do a different review of a comic every day in May, I've done that for the last I think 6 years or something. I'm up to, but that is probably the most valuable part of the Comics Anonymous reviewing that I have, because when you're doing it on a daily basis and you're reading, I probably have a wider range and a much more different comics in my head or on offer that I can read. You're saying different things, and then you're evolving your language as you go, which is invaluable. That's just like
it's a fun exercise
bonus.
for us as well,
it's an added bonus of reading.
I think it's epic that you do that, by the way, because like it's not like I'm going to read a comic a day and I'm going to choose my Doctor Strange omnibus and I'm going to read an issue of that every day, but you're looking at different things. Plus,
I think you'd run out of saying stuff. Yeah.
Yes, epic.
That's good stuff, man. The other question we had we were chatting about before we started was, do you think there's been a move over? I know Dan brought it up, but do you think there's been a move over from reviews to the expectation of promotion?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Right.
Because I think because Kickstarter has taken such a big step up, and that's got a kind of proper monetary goal in mind. People want the praise that they can get for that to then trigger the success there. And that's not what any site reviewing comics or critiquing comics should be there for. They're there to look at what works, what doesn't, and not really be a free service for somebody to shout out about.
But I almost feel like people are surprised when they send you this book. So I've got Kickstarter coming up. Could you do a review? And you write back and say the cover doesn't work. I can't read the lettering. And they're like, oh. I thought,
or they send it and then like 24 hours later, it's where are we on this? This review.
Yeah,
that's a red flag and a delete from there.
Yeah.
I suppose it's different because most reviewers, yourselves included, you are doing this by the fact that you're working full-time jobs and everything else. This is your.
It takes up a fair amount of our time.
You know what I mean? Oh, definitely, yeah.
Same with you.
And there's that sort of element of like, look, if you're doing this for fun, why on earth would you want to talk about things that aren't fun to talk about?
Yeah, exactly.
Or I mean, even if you are being like, oh, I like this could be a little better. Why do people waste their energy on like negative stuff? And also at the same point, because we're not getting paid for these things. We're not funded by some huge conglomerate. Shout out to Comic House.
Yeah.
But so also at the be all and end all, a lot of sort of people sending out these messages, and I think most of the people that we know on the small press, in fact all of them, they're aware of this. Like the reviewers don't owe you anything.
Yeah.
If I send stuff out and I don't hear a review, if I send something out and I don't hear a review about it, everyone has an ego. There's going to be a certain point where I'm going to be like, oh, they haven't said anything about what I sent them. But then I've just got to get over it because they don't. Yeah. They don't owe me anything.
When I used to send stuff out purely for review, now I just send it to mates. Really, I got fucking 5% of people I sent it to would do a review of it. Mm-hmm. There was more sites back then, but you don't see it and don't expect it.
Yeah.
Just send it out, and if you get a review, fantastic. If not, c'est la vie. It's just where it goes. I don't think you really owed anything more than that, surely.
Yeah. How do you keep up the energy and the sort of positive nature? Because surely, you've been doing it for 10 years, Gary. There must be times when the things we love are sometimes the things that hurt us the most. Comics is no different to that. Surely that when you have these moments of like, oh, I just can't talk about it this week. Have you had moments like that? And if so, like how do you keep up the energy to keep doing this, like up until now and for the next 10 years? Because you could be doing it 10 years.
Okay.
You'd be piping your reviews straight into our brain.
I suppose that the fact that I've been a fan for so long, there's always the interest in comics. I think the fact that I've shifted the site's direction to look at indie comics are just so varied. There's always something interesting there to pick up. There's always something far different than what you're getting in the mainstream. I still have a pull list that I read. I think there's about 20 or 30 titles on that, and that deals with stuff that I will keep up, stuff that I will drop, stuff that I will lose interest in, stuff that will really. I suppose my negativity in comics is kept for the mainstream because I can drop and pick up far easier there than.
But you're a lifer, aren't you? You're like us. You're a lifer. You can tell these people who just decide to get into it because it's cool. But there's that depth of knowledge, I think, which is important. Do you find that because you obviously do you keep I'm guessing you keep most of your pull list to be just fun reading.
Definitely.
And the other stuff is the review stuff at the moment. Do you read them in different ways? Do you approach them in different ways?
I don't think so. I think, as I say, I try to read it first time as a fan. So my comic reading is reading comics. I don't think there's anything different, at least for the first instance. I don't think that the mainstream is just probably the same as it always has been, and I don't necessarily think it would change in much of a big way. Especially now, as we were talking about the events come and go, and it reaches an equilibrium and it sustains that equilibrium. Whereas there's something far more risky, I guess, about the indie scene, and I think that's there for every title, because every person is taking a chance on putting that out there. It certainly feels that way much more than if a publisher's behind them. The mainstream and regular titles, they have a little bit more of a throwaway aspect or a throwaway vibe to them.
Okay. Interesting. Whereas, a trend I've noticed recently over the last couple of comic marts is I've started noticing a lot of small press in the back issues and trades.
Yes. Yeah.
I think the growth of small press people are they're being recycled now. It's interesting.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That is interesting because it's a bit of a different relationship.
Yeah,
it is, isn't it?
And also, how would you feel as a creator seeing your book to happen? Would I mean, I think it goes one or two ways. You either think, oh yeah, I'm in a long box, or oh no, I'm in a.
I know, it's a weird one, isn't it? I want to be. We often talk about Tribute Press, and we want to be that comic in a long box at a comic mart in 20 years' time that's been sold for 50p. Along by Eclipse Comics, and all these sort of old, the old favourites of the 50p boxes. We want to be that comic. I kind of like that idea.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
As long as you're still being read.
Yeah.
The monetary value can come and go, whatever it needs to be, especially just now with digital comics and stuff like that floating around.
I don't want to be slabbed, Gaz.
No. Oh no, I don't know. George Mayhem's good enough to be slapped, surely.
Thank you, very kind. Yeah.
There's your pull quote for the next.
That's it. Yeah, I've written it down already.
But speaking of digital, though, certainly that's been a huge change over these past 10 years in how you read comics and stuff. When you started, was it more you're reading physical books and then writing about them? But now, I'm guessing 90% of the stuff that you're doing reviews or articles about, you've read digitally. Am I wrong?
No, that's probably right. I think because a lot of them are now advanced copies. The fact they've been around for so long, people want me to read them as soon as possible. In some cases, so digital is the way to go. And I think on the Kickstarter side, I've kind of fought against going digitally for quite a long time because I'm fairly old school. But now, I would say the vast majority of the things I'm backing digitally because that's the easiest route for me to go.
That's how you get to the big numbers. That's how you get to the 400.
That's it. Yeah, be 500 by the end of the year.
So, yeah, the digital is a big thing. But then I think the quality of things, both digitally and print, have improved so much in the last 10 years that.
I remember going to Catford Print with a floppy disk in 1998 and watching them as they were trying to work out what fucking way the pages went up and down. So much better now. The quality of printing we've gone through is as good as in fact sometimes better print quality than some big two. The paper they print on is awful.
I think because some of the people that are producing them have so much invested in them that they want to make it as good as they possibly can, and you can tell that love of comics that we all have comes across.
There's always some weirdo graphic designers floating about. You can get to do stuff for you as well.
Yeah. For sure.
I feel seen.
I thought that's what we were talking about.
Yeah,
I'm in this post and I don't like it.
Yeah.
Can I just ask about? Has anyone been upset at anything you've said I know we kind of covered this before, but I just wanted to point out a couple of things that have happened to me that I thought you might spring your memory up. But I had one where this comic got reviewed by a certain site, and sometimes I find it hard to contain myself, Gaz. I don't know if you know that about me, but I had to say the review said this. I give this 5 out of 5. If I give it 6, I would. And I had to say, are we talking about the same book? Yeah. And the bloke, because I said that, left Twitter
I think that's seen as a win.
Yeah, right. People have got fragile egos, I think, these days.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
No thin skin there.
Yeah, I remember walking through Glasgow Comic Con with you once, and I pointed out to you someone who was staring at me because I gave them a bad review.
That's right.
Yeah, there you go.
Crazy.
Sorry, Vince, I interrupted your question.
I've completely forgot what I was going to say. Because I thought Gary was going to run off a list of all the people that want his blood. But,
I'm sure that's a longer list than I realised.
Gaz is quite tough because he's from Glasgow, so they're just at home seething. They're scared to say anything.
Trolling me somewhere.
Yeah.
Being in the sort of line of work that you're doing, though, how have you also noticed comics journalism and its quality is the wrong word. Its weight has changed over the years, because certainly things have changed quite a lot since we spoke to you on the show last. Certainly with clickbait headlines or people easy to impress, or just looking for the next thing. How do you see? I mean, are there many sites that you keep up to date with, or you trust or did trust, but now you walked away from?
I don't know that there's a lot of the kind of smaller press sites are probably better than most. They seem to be all kind of similarly minded to myself. A lot of the ones that are doing mainstream reviews now for a far different reason than they probably did it before. They did it for the interest in comics, whereas now they don't. They do it to
get clicks. Yeah.
To fuel the site, to make money, to
the propagation of reviews that are just a synopsis of the plot have grown, I think, recently.
Oh, definitely, yeah. There's definitely a dumbing down of reviews, if you like, in a lot of places, which there never was before. That there always seemed to be a lot of sites just approached it much the same way as I did, and they visited the book because they were desperate to read the book, and then they wanted to shout out about the things that were worth mentioning. Whereas now, as I said earlier, there's a lot of sites where everything's good, or everything's the next screenplay or the next route to making money, and it's not necessarily about that in every single case, and it can't be.
I think the thing I noticed, I heard a quote. I think it's Gavan Scott, who's a Doctor Who writer. I heard him on a panel say, I'm not sure if it's his original quote, but he said, "Fanzines it says podcasts are the new fanzine." And I think that's an interesting point of view. So fanzines, for those who think zines are just these things about your cat, we're actually all about comics, loads of long form, journalism and stuff. And we used to get them all the time. And now, we got the Comics Journal and maybe one other left. They've seemingly moved to podcasts, and we've got stuff like Kayfabe, who will take that deep dive into something and talk in detail about the history and. Or interview people, I suppose, like we do. We'll do that long form interview and put some questions to them that, the important questions to be asked about the art form. And I think maybe we've shifted a little bit of that. Maybe it's shifting a bit more now to YouTube. I think a podcast's losing ground. I don't know. Yeah.
No, it still feels like a lot of podcasts are popping up, but I know what you mean about them drifting towards, unfortunately, wherever the most money can be made, and YouTube seems to be the next step of that.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
My thing is, obviously, we're talking about when we do a podcast, we're talking about a visual medium and an audio one. Like, I can see where, like, if you're talking about a comic and you've got imagery to go along with what you're trying to describe, that there's a kind of
it's a weird one, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like podcasts about film are the same, aren't they? Really?
Yeah.
You're talking about a visual medium, and kindly people listen to us describing a page of a drawing. It's weird, isn't it? Yeah. But it seems to work. I think it works.
It works for me. Yeah.
Yeah, for me.
It may be one of those.
You can't get to the number of shows you've done without it working.
True.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
It might be a generational
thing. It's the same way. It's the same way your Never Iron Anything blog that hitting 100 episodes. That's focusing on certain titles, and it's able to introduce get its sense of longevity there easy enough.
Yeah, I think
it certainly feels that way.
Yeah, and I started that because I wasn't getting sent review copies. I started to do, because you and I were talking about doing another May of reviews, and I ran out of people sending me stuff. So I thought, okay, I'm just going to start, because I think I'm a rather polarizing person occasionally, and I think people thought I was just, they were scared to send me their book. So I wanted something to do during lockdown, so I did the podcast. Yeah.
I've bought about half a dozen titles that you've reviewed off there that I haven't read.
Right, it's fun, man. It is good. We all love comics. That's what it's about, man.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But that Alien one was an absolute banger.
Great. Yeah, Dave was great. I love Dave, man. How good is Dave? I must get you on, Kaz, at some point.
Definitely.
That's off subject, and I'm pimping for guests for another show on this one. But
unbelievable.
But expected.
Yeah, it's true.
Shameless Esmond back in the house.
Yeah. But another thing I think that's important to comics journalism is sort of the journalism aspect of it. It's not always. I think a lot of the sites are very lightweight, and obviously we don't need to name names, but they have reputations. They don't have too many really sort of in-depth talks with creators about things.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, we've all seen this, but I mean, that's why when we have a guest and we've read a book and we've talked about it, a few months later we get someone on the show and we're like, okay, a lot of people have read it. What was it like doing this page? Do you know what I mean? It was the Kent State episode, for instance. Like,
I love that, man.
It was like, okay, we've got this book without any spoilers. Let's talk about what it was like making.
We did a lot of work for that interview. We really prepared for that one, didn't we, guys?
Yeah.
We were looking into the history of the incident, not just the book. There's a lot to do with that one, I think.
Yeah. Watching documentaries, reading articles about it.
Yeah.
I think I've got a copy of that off of that. Back in that
episode. It's great, man.
That's
so good.
That's the importance of. I mean, people think that the review is how people buy your book. For me, a lot of the time, it's hearing a creator talking about how they made the book. That's that. I mean, I love behind the scenes stuff in every kind of medium. And if you hear an enthusiastic creator talking about, oh, well, when I did this page, and I'm like, oh, I want to see this page. Well, I want to see this book.
Yep.
So that's the importance of like not investigating, but exploring books as well. I mean, have you found that to be just as entertaining and enjoyable for you as like just reading and reviewing books?
Oh yeah, I think so, definitely. I suppose even with some of the books where you're maybe not 100% sold on, sometimes kind of crossing that barrier and talking to the creator, it can spark the interest in the book and make you go back to it, because then you know where it's come from, the journey that it's maybe gone through, the changes or what brought about the thought process to get there.
So
and then once you know that, you want to know more, and so you do then scramble to read it, because
we can't read everything as well, Gaz. We can't go and read everything, and sometimes we do need that little push to start Bone or Cerebus or whatever it is, some long form book. You need that little push to say, oh, right, now that does sound really interesting. I do need to read that.
Sometimes when you find out about a creator or a creative person, when they've worked on a certain project and you've seen it in a different light, and then you find out I was going through this, or I was really into like kaijus at this time. If you think I didn't know that, and you read the book and you have a completely different experience. It's the same with songs, isn't it? When you hear, oh my god, this song means something completely different now that I know what the lyrics are about.
Yeah, it's all that. Yeah. Goodbye Yellow Brick Road or something like that. You're like, oh right, it's about Vietnam. What the fuck is meant to be about? Yeah. I've written books and nobody has guessed what it's about. I've never had that question. Is this about this?
But you're the eternal puzzle.
Thank you, babe. It's the best thing you've ever said to me.
You can put that. You can use that as a pull quote for whatever you want.
Getting on a fucking t-shirt.
Yeah. Just a jigsaw piece with Tony's face on it. We'll have them available soon. But what have been some of your highlights over the 10 years? I'm going to put you on the spot, Gaz. Sorry, but you can name names, you can not name names if you can remember them.
Highs and lows if you want, babes.
Yeah.
Highs and lows.
Yeah.
Highs are probably books that I've connected with the fact that their comics. Like if you go back to the likes of In Waves from No Brow, it's probably a.
It broke me, that book.
It's probably a far more key book to me than maybe I even realise. Because I think I first read it not necessarily long after my dad had got the all clear from cancer and stuff like that. So there was something inevitably right straight away. There was something there that linked me to it, and it's probably one of those books where you still remember it, or it still lingers beyond the fact that you've read it. So there's quite a few that have reached that kind of point. Maybe something like Barking by Lucy Sullivan as well. I mean, it's something. Mental health, it being the way it is just now, and I like being shone on it so much that it's something that kind of opens up conversations as opposed to just being an entertaining medium. So there's certainly a lot of things like that. Similarly, once people hear that you're part of a website or a reviewing site or something like that, you get the chance to speak to people that you would maybe never got the chance to speak to, like first interviews with the likes of Charlie Adlard or Sean Phillips or all these kind of Adam Hughes and Tim Sale, all that kind of stuff. People that you've read for years, and all of a sudden you're face to face with this person talking about the books that you love with the person who's created the book that you love. I think
the thing is we do
sticks.
We do see these people as heroes of our medium, don't
we?
You know,
for sure.
But they're just people, man. You know.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I'm a big Spider-Man 2099 fan, and
nice.
Yeah, that's great.
When I first met Peter David at London Super Comic Con, I could barely speak because I was fanboying so much, and I always felt like I missed the opportunity to ask him something, to speak to him about something else. And then a couple of years ago, I met Rick Leonardi, who did the art for it, and it was the polar opposite. I managed to like stand and talk to him for about 30-40 minutes about stuff.
Yeah.
And it made a book that was special to me all the more special for that meeting.
It's great, isn't it?
That's lovely when that happens, isn't it?
You know what I mean? And then a lot of other things have happened at events when we were at Nice, and I think it was Don McGregor that was there.
It was the day you very kindly gave me a ticket, my friend, to get into it.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Yep, that's right.
Thank you for that.
I think I knew his name and I knew some of his involvement in comics, but I think the end of like the first day, he was signing a couple of things for me, and they were starting to close up and all that kind of stuff. And he just started talking for another 30 or 40 minutes.
Oh man, he did that with me. He said, "Sit down, I want to talk to you." And he just
And some of the stuff he spoke about, books that never made it into comic book form, and the kind of the investigation and the research that he did for certain books. When you realise that's what goes into it, then there's something special about even just hearing that.
Oh man, just having been the writer on Panther's Rage, you're like, that's enough. That's all you need, this dude.
Yep.
You know, but Killraven, Detectives Inc., you know, you name it. It's just amazing.
Yeah, and it went into a story about a Batman story that he wanted to write. It was far more on the detective side, but it was about, I think it was either about child abuse or child trafficking.
Okay.
And he'd been to the police and all that kind of stuff to do and look into some cases, and he'd done a hell of a lot of investigation and looked into some serious cases so that they could then have the material to put into it, and it never ended up getting made by DC because it was such a risky step to take for an established character. But the fact that you know that in him he's got the chance, he's got the interest and the will to do that kind of story.
And also,
to hell with everything else.
I'm talking about something serious. I better know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, he's a writer's writer, I think.
Yeah.
I do love that
you can see
period
when he talks.
Oh man, yeah, I love that period from about 2015 to 2019 where he was literally touring the world, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Just going to comic conventions everywhere, and it was almost like Don McGregor lives his best life. You just pictures of him all over the place. Restaurants with, here he is with Jonathan Ross. Here he is with his mystery in this restaurant. Yeah, it's just like brilliant. Yeah. Much admired. I love that dude stuff. Yeah, real depth to it. Yeah.
So, what are your hopes for the comics and sort of comics journalism over the next couple of years?
I think, particularly after how things have been the last couple of years, I just hope that we go back to being as inclusive as we always have been. I think the indie scene in itself has always been inclusive and always adopted people as their own pretty quickly because there's a shared passion. I hope that we go back to that. I think, as you said last week, the number of the events that are coming up are probably going to be the make or break of what route we go next. And how successful everybody can be, I guess, in indie comics for the next 2-3 years, whatever it's going to be. So I would really like to see less of the aggression and the negativity around comics.
That's the arguing we're seeing on social media. I think I'm done with that. I think everyone sensible is done without that nonsense, aren't they?
Yeah. It's not worth it for a hobby that we love to see it kind of ripped to shreds and used as a visceral way of attacking people. It's not fair in a lot of ways as well.
That whole concept's gonna be tough because, like, even now, like the government's rescinded the thing about the passports, hasn't it? And they seem to be flip flopping around stuff. So, as an event organizer, how the fuck do you keep on top of stuff when they're changing it every week?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's got to be a real headache, isn't it?
Yeah,
for sure.
Where are we expecting to see you guys? Are you doing the lakes or are you doing what you planning to do?
Yeah, the plan is to do the lakes and then Thought Bubble after that, hopefully. That's
nice.
Fantastic.
We've got
fingers crossed I'm going to be at both of them, so that's good.
Cool.
Good to see you there, man.
Yeah, really good to catch up with
many
definitely. People again after so much time away.
Yeah. And go on a pub crawl with Ian Loxham and Nikki.
Yeah,
one of my favourite things. Yeah,
we'll hear stories about that soon. Where can people follow you in the meantime, Gary, or find out some of your brilliant reviews and articles?
They can go on the website that I've got, comicsanonymous.co.uk. I'm on Twitter and Instagram under @comicsanonblog. And that's
the G-Man.
The
G-Man.
Yes, I go by the G-Man. Yeah.
Oh dear. Yes. So go for. Probably in a couple of years, we'll be talking to Gary again about what on earth has happened, man.
Yeah.
You said it was going to be positive, man. You promised.
You lied to us, you bastard.
It just charged me £400 for postage from America. That's what it sounds like.
But that's what it's like just now.
Yeah. So if you want a good positive force for comics, whether they be indie and small press, definitely check out Comics Anonymous because we love them. So, yeah,
agreed.
And he hasn't paid us anything to.
No.
Did you send him the PayPal details, guys?
Not yet.
Cheers, Gary.
Cheers, Gary. Thanks, man.
Cheers.
There you go, folks. Something highbrow for you. Quite a lot of. I think it's an interesting topic, that one. And it's easy. There was so much more we could have sort of discussed, I think, but also. We don't want to do another grumpy old man.
No. Honestly, you can go on for a while with it. Like so much. So easy to get into the negative stuff around comics. I feel like we're in a fucking years ago. We was in naive and innocent, and it's all gone. Yeah,
we're bitter and jaded.
Wrong, but I don't know if that is the case or not. But
I think Gary worded it very well as well when he said it becomes less aggressive. I think aggressive is the great term for it. I think.
Yeah.
Which makes it, hopefully it's going to be onwards and upwards for comics. We're still going to be talking about great books.
Yeah. I think the best thing is just remove yourself from it.
Yeah.
Don't get involved.
Read the books you want to read and make the comics you want to make.
Keep moving forward. It's not about how hard you can get hit, etc. I'm not going to give the speech out of Rocky.
I was about to say I would be fucking here for that if you did. Oh dear, but no, thank you to Gary and for Tony for joining us, because
Trooper.
He is poorly, but he's an absolute trooper, like Rogue Trooper. I quite like Rogue Trooper. Stick around for the end of the show, where there may be a couple of outtakes, as me and Dan have scrabbled around and trying to make some sense of what we're going to do for the second half.
I'll tell one or two off-colour jokes.
Yeah, but you'll never hear them.
No way.
Of course he doesn't. Dan Butcher's an angel amongst men. I didn't say what kind of angel you were.
Lucifer.
Yes. But, Lucifer created rock and roll, so you got to love him.
Yep.
Anyway, do we have any shout-outs this week?
No, not especially. And I apologise in advance to anyone I said I will give you a shout and hence forgotten and not doing that.
Me and Dan, as it's probably legendary how we completely forget what we're going to talk about when we get to this stage of the show. However, there is a couple. There is the ongoing campaign for Edison Neo's No Brainer.
Oh yes, of course.
Which has got, as we speak, got 17 days left to go. Already smashed its goal, but you really do need to check this out because it's a solo comics anthology. There's sort of one main story and some short sort of tales going in the back half of it, and it's brilliant. Edison is fast becoming one of our fave creators. If you should listen to their episode with him on, and he's just churning this work out. Comics out there, some publisher. Check this out and get him on your books immediately. But it's currently going. The pledge goals are such good value as well. So definitely go and back it. That's No Brainer. It's for issue 2, but of course you can catch up with issues 1 and 2 if you want, because that's just the.
I've got 2 shout-outs. They'll just come to me. The complete Frank at Home on the Farm oversized hardcover of the critically acclaimed 4-issue horror series with a Glenn Fabry variant edition that Jordan Thomas has been sharing with us on our Slack group. Yes. Looks absolutely fantastic. Looks a brilliant book. Just absolutely great. One that I saw on Facebook and I checked it out and it looks pretty good is Crime and Disorder. From drag queen to supervillain, Cybil Disorder has revenge in mind and a plan to take over the world. Thriller with LGBTQ themes. I quite like the pun names of Cybil Disorder. And that looks like a nice old comic. So go check that one out too.
We're a pun name, aren't we? We're totally...
That ties in with my review coming up shortly.
Oh.
But yeah, pun names. There's an issue in Vanguard, but I've got the Bulldog show, and that was just fucking flexing those pun muscles.
One of my favourite Patreon videos is when you're reading out the name of the characters and you can't help but laugh to yourself at your own jokes. It gives me life watching you just laugh about that. But as we speak, we are a couple of days away from Meanwhile in Coventry. Yes, comics event. We spoke about it a few weeks ago on the show. I don't know what episode it was, but definitely go and check it out. MeanwhileFestival.com. There's free tickets. Yep. There's lots of creators going to be there. Fantastic stuff. Drink and draws. There's all kinds of stuff. It's going on in the heart of historic Coventry. There's 5 locations. Lots of things going on. So there's pro talent, local talent. There's guys from the uni. Go if you can make it there. Definitely go and check it out and support this event because it's the first time trying this, and we're all about comics events, just pushing the boundaries and trying to get more stuff out there. So it looks like it's going to be an amazing time.
Give a quick shout out to Drew Hurd, who has also completed the Great Northern Run. So congratulations, Drew.
Well
He's
done,
got a
Drew.
Just Giving page up to raise a few quid for charity, which we'll drop into the show notes. So nice work. I don't know how long that is, but I bet it's a fucking slog.
Yeah.
So top work.
Well done, Drew, and well done you, Dan, when you finished yours. How was yours? How are you feeling?
I'm still aching now.
Really? Because you just
my shoulders.
On our last episode, Dan had just finished his epic charity. What's it called?
It's a nuts. It was a 14K assault course. It was hard work.
I mean, you posted up a picture which immediately made garnered a legion of fans. You looked like you had just walked out of it. It was either Predator or Andy Dufresne from Shawshank emerging from that shit tunnel.
Yeah. I didn't realise I had all that shite in my hair, so I kind of like the kind of hairstyle that Arnie's sporting in the later third of Predator.
It looks like you're about to set fire to a load of logs and then go, oh. We're very mature on this show.
That's how we like barbecues in the butcher household. I stand on top of the garage, covered in mud, and go, oh, and then
launching
throw a burning pitch into the centre of the lawn.
That would be amazing. While the music's playing, you got the soundtrack playing in the background. Oh, he's just covered in dry mud. Oh dear. Anyway, it's time for that part of the show where we're going to recommend a couple of comics to talk to you about and for you to check out that we have been checking out recently. Normally, I would say who wants to go first, but it's just you and me, Dan. I've got a couple, so shall I? That I'm just going to give.
Should we go first? I'll go in the middle.
Yeah. The first one I'm going to mention. I went back to. I bought two more issues of this. So I'd already read the first two and talked about them. From Image Comics, Skybound, written by Kyle Starks, art by Chris Schweizer. It's the 6 Sidekicks of Trigger Keaton. Which is I've just continued the story of this, basically a classic action hero sort of actor who's a massive piece of shit. And he gets murdered, and it's basically there's like a crew of his old sort of sidekicks from different shows that he was in. He's basically for want of a better word, it's like they've created a Chuck Norris that was just a supremely evil piece of shit. You know,
kind of like the real Chuck Norris.
I'm not going to say anything about Chuck Norris. So I've read the sort of things that he can do. But yeah, this, and he gets killed. So you've got a motley crew of people who are investigating the mystery of why, you know. And at first it seems like it's all the suspects are one of them, but as they're investigating it, more mysteries are revealed. And you know, it's a brilliant way of having a motley crew sort of group of characters. You know, getting the gang together. Those sort of stories, I like. You know, that's Dirty Dozen, Magnificent Seven. You know, picking up characters one by one. And there's certainly some absolutely fucking hilarious and fantastic characters. I mean, even in the inside cover of these books, it's got like the sort of the names of the 6 sidekicks themselves, and one of them's called Terry Komodo. I mean, Kyle's got such a great way, and I can almost sort of, it's just so good, this book. It's funny throughout, but has like real touches of, you know, at the same time it doesn't let you forget what a horrible person this main character, this person that was murdered was. And some of the lines like these characters say, it actually made me laugh out loud. I'm trying to find there's a scene in issue 3, which I think when I talked about the book last time, it left on a great cliffhanger as one of the new sidekicks was a female sort of sidekick, the only female sidekick that the Trigger had, and this is Alison Saint Marie. And she is clearly the muscle of the group because she's just an amazing martial artist. You've got the classic someone doing martial arts moves. And much like Snake Claws, as they're doing the moves, you can see the name of them. And she's absolutely just laying waste to people. I love that touch. And like Schweizer's such an amazing artist for this. Terry Komodo, in this issue, Terry Komodo basically looks at her and goes, oh, it's just all flash. She can't fight for shit. I'm going to go in there and beat her up. And I must say, even though she was a badass, and I was looking forward to this issue thinking, we're going to have the grizzled badass. When the fight actually comes around, she's very cheerful.
Okay.
He gets in the ring with her and she goes, oh my gosh, Terry Komodo, are we going to fight? That's cool beans, Terry Komodo, very cool beans. And then she just, Terry Komodo's like, I can't believe I'm about to murder a child. I'm 23, Terry Komodo. I'm an adult woman. And then they have a bit, it's sort of even at first, but then there's just some, there's a moment where he knocks her to the ground. He says, everyone talked about how tough you were. You're a pussy. She goes, Terry, that's not an insult. That's not hurtful. I don't think any anatomical part of my body or anyone's body is an insult. Like you wouldn't care if I called you elbow. I think all genitals are great no matter what they are, really. Bruce Lee said, be water. But I say, be a vagina. be resilient and productive. And it's just so, that sort of dialogue during a fight, I was like, fucking hell. And then as the fight finishes, he goes, I didn't know people could fight like that in real life. Though we all agree that was an uncomfortable amount of vagina talk, right? And there's one of the characters, there's revelations about certain characters. And one of them, they're having the bit that made me laugh is one says, shut up, Hernandez, you giant fucking mouth. No one will ever love you. And the character says, hey, joke's on you, Komodo, because I have a boyfriend who loves me very much. And it cuts to him in his home, and he says, boyfriend, you stupid cat, come down here and get your milk. I will. This is a book I would recommend to read because of the rhythm of it. I'm enjoying reading it as the guided view. Because the nature of these jokes, they have that sort of this bounce to them. And reading a flat PDF, I don't know if that has the same cadence, if that has the same structure. This is definitely a book that I'm going to double dip when there's a collection.
Okay.
I bought issue 4. Issue 4's just come out, and this was the one. I think I spoke about it beforehand. The new issues are like £3.19, but when they're out for a little bit more, they go down to like $1.59. So I bought the first 3 issues like cheaper. I noticed that Image do that. Some other publishers, and I think like Aftershock or Volt, their prices don't decrease when it comes to digital. Have you noticed that with some books?
Some of they just stay the same.
Yeah, they just stay the same. Like if you wanted, for instance, if you hadn't read this book yet and you wanted to read the first 3 issues, or just say Comixology or whatever it's going to be, all the first 3 issues are all £1.59 each. Okay. It's only the new one, which is, I guess shelf price at the moment.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's quite a good thing to do. I think. Certainly, I just bought the recent one for the full price, so it worked for me in that sense. What do you think?
I still find digital pricing still fucking out of whack at times because it annoys me. I buy something, it's like, well, I could buy the physical fucking edition of this. I only want to kind of read it and then it's gone. I'm never really going to read this again. I say that, but to be fair, I rarely go back to digital stuff. I go back to the print stuff all the time.
Yeah, no, I think that's why I want to double dip on books like this.
Yeah.
This is really made me want to. I know we're a big fan of Carl Starks on this show anyway, and his writing, because he always seems like he's writing something that's very much in our wheelhouse of like 80s action movies. And
it always feels like he's writing it for me. Like when Sarah got me the original something, was it Murder Castle?
Sex Castle.
I was like, she said, I can't believe you haven't read this yet. And when I read it, I was like, I understand where you're coming from because this is totally me. Love it.
Yeah. And what was it? Was it Kill Them All or something like that? That was the one we had him on the show. He's got loads of. And
Karate Prom. That was a recent one.
Yeah.
Digital only. They're great.
I mean, they're like a bunch of fantastic. When we used to go to the video store and rent like just kick-ass sort of 80s action movies. And this one's like I'm guessing, born from a love of like 80s action TV shows, but each one has a bit of back matter as well as like the ongoing story. You have like each one came from a different show. Like this female sidekick, she was in a sci-fi show, and you certainly see at the beginning how that show just sort of ended. And all of the shows end because Trigger Keaton was an absolute asshole, and people just didn't want to work with him anymore. So a lot of the sidekicks, you know, it's almost like they had their big break and their careers just sort of faltered because this guy messed it all up.
Gotcha.
You know, so you see those flashbacks of that, but also there's back matter in the book as well, which sort of explores a bit of that world and the 80s world and the characters in it, and like.
Okay.
Yeah. There's some interesting sort of prose pieces about the shows, because the sci-fi show that the female was in called Space Boat 3030, and he's done sort of back matter as if like journalists have been have done an article about like, whatever happened about that show. So there's lots of things just sort of building up this little world, and maybe, I mean, when the reveal is done, maybe there were hints going throughout that. Maybe he's dropped in, you know, little bits and bobs that I haven't noticed, but it's It's definitely one that people should put on the list. For me, this is this hits my vein in the way that, remember The Fix? Was it The Fix that I used to absolutely love from Image? Steve Lieber book. I've forgotten,
okay.
Yeah. From a few years ago. I've got a couple of books of that. It's, you know, that sort of crime, pulpy.
Interesting. You said about like the TV stars are absolute dicks. I recently watched one of those Toy Galaxy videos, and they talked about the Buck Rogers TV series, and the main actor for that, the guy Gil something, he was an absolute fucking womble. Like it just, you know, like kind of like when their ego gets a bit better with them, they were, I want this happening, I want that happening, and so okay, you're kind of fucking it all up, but yeah, as long as you're happy.
Yeah. It's funny that his career wasn't so massive, isn't it? Maybe that was something to do with it.
I can't even recall watching the second series of Buck Rogers, but I know it had that Hawk chap in it. But
Hawk chap, dude, that's a book we need to write.
He had a pretty killer look, that dude. He was like an all black leather PVC suit with like the white feathery.
He had like a.
I mean,
like a feathery...
not saying I would wear out in the town. But
well, you say that, but
say that I would wear that out.
Yeah, you don't know, do you? Anyway, so. But what would you like to talk about this week, Dan?
I plundered Comic House, and I dove into the Penguin presents Coincidence by our friend Alan Henderson.
Yes.
Like we talked about puns earlier. Like this should come with some kind of warning on the cover, because it's just absolutely double barrel puns loaded, like locked and loaded. It's absolutely great. I love this stuff. I'll just blast it through it. You know, you kind of, like we mentioned earlier, when you're reading something and then you're like, oh, I've read the whole fucking book. I've gone through
yeah.
And I have to buy these like actual physical collections of now, because I really, really like them. There's a couple here that I can't read out because they work visually. It's that beautiful sort of marrying of the comic and the pun in one go.
He does totally sort of, it really leans into that sort of. Is it 3 or 4 panels? It's usually 3 panels. 3 panels.
Yeah, 3 panels.
3 panels. And he not only that, with the fantastic puns, sometimes he really messes with the medium, like really visually. Mixes it up. And of course, like he's got, like, if you see him at shows, he's got like huge collections of them, as well as like the sort of coffee table sort of books and stuff.
For me, this is like I could give this to like a member of my family who don't have an interest in reading comics, and they could read this and get it.
Yeah.
And, do you know what I mean?
Yeah. It's got that beautiful
totally
sort of Garfield, like, you know, pick up and read, and you know, there's just those 3 panel strips, which I find certainly, I think Al at the moment is doing just some, certainly in the UK scene, some of the last consistent.
Man, he's on fire.
Mm.
I don't know how you come up with this stuff, Al. It's amazing. I just you're just on an absolute roll. I mean, I'm on following him on Instagram with the penguins. They're coming through every day. Just smash them out of the park.
Yeah, he's not. He probably sees them in his sleep. But no, he does absolutely smash it, and it's always great. And I was next to him last time at Thought Bubble as well. And that was great fun.
Oh, fantastic! So hopefully we get a chance to catch up with him this year.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah. So just go and get the penguins. I've got a penguin shirt as well. So
nice one.
Yeah, it's like an old Alfred Hitchcock sort of it's a black T-shirt with an Alfred Hitchcock sort of, the classic sort of white outline of him, that kind of thing.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, nice one.
Love it.
That works.
Makes me look like a classy bitch. Anyway, my last one that I want to give a shout out to. Obviously, we're talking about how gorgeous it looks. It is the collected volume of Beast Hunting Battle Badges by Steve Sims. It's a weighty tome. I think I may have dropped it on the desk last time I was talking about it, just to show how weighty it was. This is, I haven't quite finished reading all of it yet, but saying that, I've still been pouring through all of the pages of Beast Hunting Battle Badges because it's beautiful. For those who don't know about it, and shame on you, strange things are afoot amidst the Summervale. Tales are whispered of mysterious mists and malicious moon mystics. The badgers of the Brockville tribe are missing. Their prized relic, the Oran Stone, stolen. Only 2 remain with the skills to survive the trials of dastardly dukes, weird wizards, and marauding monsters, and face the shadow that has crawled forth from the darkness. Flint, wielder of the Hedgehammer. Laird, master of the Bracken Blaze. The Beast Hunting Battle Badges. Cool. I mean, you should get like a proper voice actor to do that. I can see the animated intro now for an amazing animated.
God, yeah, that would be fantastic. It'd be an absolute vanity project, but worth every penny.
Seriously, how when
you need the kind of
yeah. If we are not talking in the next 10 years, if we're not talking about, wasn't the TV show Beast Hunting Battle Badges awesome?
Fucking ace.
If your kids don't have action figures, if all of this, then something's gone wrong. Something's gone wrong in the world, because this is tailor made, and Steve obviously, I mean, he's a professional illustrator in his own time anyway, and this is a pure tome of love from someone who loves all of those things, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Usagi Yojimbo. He's just bringing together all the D&D influences, fantasy, and just anthropomorphic books, and just the designs of everything are amazing. There's a lot of back matter with just sketchbook pages, which are wonderful, and also just make you cry a bit. Do you know what I mean? When you look at it, oh God, why can't my sketchbook look like that?
Mine should be sitting at work, my copy. So
yeah. Oh, dude, you were just gonna. And also, I think great for your kids as well. This book is there's great monster design. It's fun for everyone. There's a bigger story going on, but there's huge monsters, all black and white interiors. But it truly shows the power of you don't necessarily need it all to be full color all the time. Do you know what I mean? Because the way that he deals with the grayscale tones and the monsters and everything, and it's consistent. I know he's been doing this book over a couple of years, but the style is consistent throughout. So now that he's got the collection, I'm sure he'll have that on his table as well as all the other books. He's also got prints and all kinds of things. I can see him shifting a lot of these books. I mean, the Kickstarter itself was immensely popular, but
when you got that, the quality of the book absolutely shines through, and it would just go. Yeah. I'm expecting him to shift units on that one. Yeah. It must be a bit of a troubled thing how much you're going to get printed, because I can imagine you could take along 2 dozen to a show, and then they've all gone.
Yeah.
And they're big old chunks, aren't they? The books.
Yeah, they're big, nice, oversized. They're bigger than the actual issues themselves, so they're oversized. And I'm very proudly sitting next to an art book of Usagi Yojimbo on my shelf.
Yes.
It's one of those ones where you pick a good place for it on your shelf. Do you ever have those books where you're like, no, I want this book to be next to something nice?
Well, my shelves are a bit of a stare at the moment because I've got my work desk in front of one of them, you know, at the start of COVID, I put this desk here so I can work from it.
So you're staring at your books all the time.
Pretty much.
Oh,
yeah.
That must be distracting when you're trying to work. You must.
Well, the ones they're in, it's a kind of got a glass case with doors, and I can't actually get at them.
Oh.
So that's one of the frustrations.
Oh no! It's like eternally looking at the cake you can never eat.
I mean, COVID's hit us hard in many ways, but I feel like I've had to deal with the heaviest burden.
Oh yes, certainly. You're taking the brunt for all of us.
Yeah.
But at Battle Badgers on Twitter, and just look up Battle Badgers, Beast Hunting Battle Badgers, Google it, find out about it, because you will not regret. And also, I think if you want, with Christmas coming up, if you want to get your kids a fantastic book to check out, then this is right up their street. I think this is the sort of book I would have just been all about this when I was a kid.
Oh man, so me too. But I'm looking forward to giving it to my son.
Yeah, you know, because you had
to read, should I say, not to keep.
Oh yeah, no. Dan's always very strict with that. It's like you can read it, put the gloves on, and you must.
I've lost a lot of my manga to my son. He just co-opted it all.
Oh God, not the saucy stuff.
No, like all my One Punch and added some My Hero stuff has gone. Oh well.
Yeah, nicely different.
For the greater good.
For the greater good. A little Hot Fuzz reference there for anyone that got it.
Yes.
So there you go, folks. Another bunch of comics you need to check out in the oncoming weeks and months. And yes, we hope you enjoyed this episode. It's I'm
sure they did, Vince.
Oh yeah.
And if you didn't, we don't care to hear from you.
There you go.
If
you didn't like it, don't email us at awesomecomicspod@gmail.com. Now, recently, we went back into our emails and settings off, so we need to sort out the settings because there was lots of emails that we lost that we didn't see because we were just inundated with, like, you know, the social media notifications and all that. We've got to figure out. Basically, we need to do some techie stuff so we actually know what's going on with the email. But that should be done in the next few days. So you can email us awesomecomicspod@gmail.com. So apologies to anyone that did send an email and we haven't seen it or talked about it on the show, because I have noticed that there's some interesting questions on there. I might bring up some next week as well.
Okay, that's good, yeah.
Follow us on Twitter at The Awesome Pod, where we'll be shouting about books, retweeting, etc., and announcing guests sometimes. You never know what we're going to do on that. We've all got the keys.
Can we announce the guest we've got coming up in a couple of weeks, but for questions, or we'll leave that for a week?
We'll leave that for a week.
Okay.
And then, we're doing a little bit of not research, but we're doing a bit of planning. It's first time for everything, isn't it? We only got to September and we decided to plan something. If you do Facebook, go to facebook.com/awesomecomicspodcast. Join the community group Awesome Comics Talk on there. Get involved with some different comics discussion and everything. There's also a Slack channel if you prefer to do that. But basically get involved with all of them. Just get in touch with us, join us on the chat, and just keep it going, because we want positive comics talk is what we need more of. I think as we close out this year, let's close it off in as positive nature as we can. Thank you for listening to us, whether it is on the website awesomecomics.podbean.com. Thank you to all our new listeners. If you are a new listener, welcome to the Thunderdome. You've got 300 plus to listen to and then wonder, why did I start listening to this again? But there's going to be plenty more to come. And if you listen to us on any network, you know what's coming down. If you listen to us on like Apple Podcasts, subscribe and leave a review. It helps get the word out about the show, and then more people find out about the comic initiatives, indie comics, etc. that we talk about week on week. And if you listen to us on any other networks like Spotify, Amazon, Stitcher, Podknife, what other networks are we on, Dan?
My fucking annoying cat.
It's quite a popular network, that one. I think all of us cat owners can agree with that. One of mine has entered the room and is just very sort of moodily, she's sat on the floor behind me. I think she's planning something.
Mine ruthlessly attacked the carpet outside the door to get my attention.
Oh, right.
Looks like fucking Freddy Krueger's been out here, to be honest. Absolutely fuck the carpet.
Oh my! Oh no! Well, just in case you hear me out in a moment, that's what it'll be. Or it could be Dan, just fighting with his cat. But wherever you listen to us, thank you very much. Where can people find us online, etc.? Dan.
You can find me on Twitter at Vanguard Comic, and you can read Vanguard at vanguardcomic.com.
There you go, which you should. You can follow Tony Esmond, or just go to Never Iron Anything. Is it .com or .blogspot?
Yes, we recently released he recently released the Terminator vs Predator, Frank Miller, Walt Summerson re-review.
Was it RoboCop vs Terminator?
RoboCop vs Terminator.
You said Predator.
What did I say? Predator. Oh God,
yeah.
Sorry.
It's
getting late in the day.
And also, we just talk about the things we love, and we also love Predator.
So it's RoboCop vs Terminator. There is no Predator versus Terminator comic by Frank Miller. I would read that.
Yeah. Tony on our WhatsApp group, Tony did send us a link to Cadence Art, a Chris Warner Predator double page spread.
Oh fuck me, that was unbelievable.
Which just shows, and we've talked about Chris Warner a couple of times this year, just goes to show why he is one of the hidden legends. Of comics. So let's see if
I've kind of like known his art, but kind of slept on it.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean?
Exactly. It was, that fantastic art that's always there that you didn't realise that you loved as much as you do, and then you see when you see the pencils, you're like,
fuck.
And I will say it, he's the only dude that can draw Predators properly, and I will stick by that.
He does a bloody good job. Yeah.
Yeah. He does indeed. You can follow me on social media at Jester Diablo. Thank you very much for listening. Thanks to Gary from Comics Anonymous for joining us again, and for Tony,
cheers, Gary,
and for Tony for joining us when he could.
And hope you feel better, T.
Yes. The gang will be back together again next week.
Post-con,
a post-con chat, which should be quite interesting. So look forward to that. We'll be here, same bat time, same bat channel.
Yes. Kids won't get that nowadays, but we still say it.
No. Yeah. We'll say it because we're old.
Yeah.
What are you saying, Dan? Oh.
We're old.
We are.
Fucking hell. There's two of them fighting behind me.
Right, okay. Whilst Dan is about to be murdered by his cats, thank you very much for listening, everyone. This may be the last time you hear from Dan Butcher. But from Dan, Tony, and everyone here at ACP Towers, have a brilliant week. Read loads of comics. Wherever you are in the world, stay happy, healthy, and positive. And as always, I don't know, what should they do, Dan?
Stay awesome.
See ya.
See you later. Hey Google, are you listening all the time?
I get confused sometimes.
Good. Nothing to say.
She's avoiding the question, Dan. Ask her again.
Hey Google, are you listening all the time?
I am now.
Fuck you.
Oh my god.
Hey Google, tell me a joke. Oh, that's awful.
Dude, did that elephant noise come out of your iPad?
Yeah, no, out of my phone.
Why was that Google that did that elephant noise?
That's Google, yeah.
What the fuck is happening, man? Get out of your house. Leave the phone. Get out of your house.
Oh, I bought like a Danish from the calf opposite of work. This is like before COVID. And I told like these 4 people this story about how like this guy dropped his wallet, and I gave it to him. And he said, "Oh, thanks for that. Thanks." He said, "I should give you some money." I said, "Oh no, don't worry about that." He goes, "Well, I've not got money, but I just bought this Danish, like ice Danish. You could have that if you wanted." I was like, oh, yeah, yes, please. I haven't had any breakfast. And he goes, well, you can have it, but you got to touch my willy. And I sort of laughed and said, there's some weirdos about. And then, like, I brought the Danish up from out of view and took like a bite out of it. You should try that one in the office, is it? Get some fucking.
Oh, fucking hell. Okay.
Anyway, let's put this to bed.
Right.
That's so fucked up.
Oh, God. Oh.
Oh. Anyway.
Oh, that was good. That's just what I needed. Yeah.